Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Brass Junkies. I am your host, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by my co-host, Lance LaDuke. Lance, 159 of these things. Can you believe it?
I cannot believe it. That seems like a lot.
It feels like 259.
And you know, there's a bunch of people who've listened to all of them. Actually,
you and I are not one of those people.
No. Nope. Actually, if you've listened to every episode, reach out to us and let us know either why or what you got out of the experience, or if you had to do it again, if you would still do it.
If you could just lead with your regrets. Speaking of which, we passed 250 ratings on Apple Podcasts.
Is that a regret?
That is not. It's like 2 minutes that none of those 250 people are going to get back. So there's probably some regrets. Updated review. Yeah, right. That's like the Yelp updated review. Yep. I went and the drive-through took 3 extra minutes. So now it's 2 stars. Yep. Good. Yep. You have a very productive life there, Yelp reviewer. Thank you to everybody who's gone to Apple Podcasts. Also, I haven't even mentioned, probably because I don't want to say her name because it's cool and I butcher it. So who did we talk to? I said it in the interview. Now you have to attempt it.
We interviewed the phenomenal Norwegian euphonium player Bente Illevold.
Hey, that was pretty good.
Not bad, huh? Oh yeah. Man, she was cool. She has like 10. She makes me feel like I'm not doing enough.
Right?
She's like, I have 19 duos, 4 quartets, a quartet of quartets.
I've commissioned 700 original works for Euphonium. Yeah, she teaches.
I made a sandwich.
I used to sometimes say this line at the end of Boston Brass shows when the audience was particularly great, and I'll say, "Look, I tell all audiences that they've been great, but I actually mean it tonight because you." But this was a fascinating interview.
Really good, yeah, very interesting.
She's wonderful,
good, and an excellent example of how to capitalize on leveling up during COVID. You know, how to just not just like give up and kick your toe in the dirt, but how to thrive.
No, it wasn't just interesting. There was like a lot of actionable stuff. Like I was thinking about some of the things that she talked about many days later, which is a good sign. So yeah, really, really wonderful. I think you're going to love this. Wanted to mention that we have a listener survey for Pedal Note Media. That'll take you no more than 10 minutes. As a thank you, we're going to do a drawing for one person to get a $100 American Express gift card. But if you are a fan of the Brass Junkies, if you're not, what the hell are you doing? It could be required for class, and I'm sorry that now you're paying a lot of money for a college class to listen to something that you don't like. You should think about that. But if you are a fan, we'd love to hear from you, and that is at pedalnotemedia.com/survey. And then the only other thing that I've got is on the 21st, on Sunday at 7 p.m., I'm doing a Winning the Audition with the principal trumpet of the New York Philharmonic, Chris Martin. We're going to talk to him all about his audition. He either got incredibly lucky in his Atlanta audition and his Chicago Symphony audition and his New York Phil audition, or he knows a couple of things about taking auditions. So, because at that level, everyone that shows up sounds really good. And there's something to it when you keep being the one where they say, we would like to give you money regularly for you to sit in that chair right over there. So
I think it's the influence of his brother. Frankly.
I was trying to avoid that because, the answer probably is simply to have Michael Martin as your brother, but that's not really attainable for. Well, there's only 2 people that can claim that. So, but other than the overarching influence of Michael, we are going to talk to Chris about everything that he did to prepare for auditions, and then also just his mentality on audition day, and we'll take some questions. Do you have any questions, Lance?
How do you get blood stain out of carpeting?
I'm going to let
it's a standard question.
I'm going to let your Google search history have that. That was shared on some previous episodes. So you can go digging. You can go digging for that. No, I'm telling the people that they could go digging for it. So
that's true.
Yeah, I never repeat stories, Lance. So you should feel bad.
Tell that one you told.
And for you know that story you tell it again. And without further ado, let us get to the conversation that we had with Norwegian euphonium superstar Bente Illevold. Today on the Brass Junkies, we are joined by a Norwegian euphonium superstar who had to coach me very patiently on how to pronounce her name. And I'm about to butcher it, but that is not because of her teaching. It's because of the student. Her name is Bente Illevold. How'd I do?
Really well.
Hey, I don't believe you, but thank you.
That pause said it all. That you did. Not that we should kick off on the good foot.
That was only the delay over the Atlantic.
Okay.
I like this. A guest who comes like with excuses for the hosts, like ready to go. I like. Pretty good. You can come back anytime that you'd like. So, how are things in Norway?
I think things are good in Norway, like in general, compared to the rest of the world. And COVID and everything, we have done really well. But of course, it's been a year, so that says it all.
That does say it all.
It has been a year. So let's go back to how did you first start playing the euphonium? How old were you? Like, because I'm not familiar, and maybe you started in school, but maybe you didn't. But I don't know how you begin studying music in Norway. Was it in school or outside of school?
It was in the local school band, but I was not like a talent or anything. So I started on the trumpet because my father played the trumpet. And I was not particularly good. So I can actually remember when I was like 14 years old, I like cried over dinner and wanted to quit playing the trumpet. And my parents just, no, you have to stick with it. And yeah, and then it was like, I don't know if you know this, but in Norway we have these big marching traditions on our national days. So every like school band and amateur bands are going in parades over the entire country, and playing marches, of course. And at one point, I think I was 15 years old. Actually, we were lacking a euphonium player in the band, and my best friend played the euphonium. And then I was like, oh, I want to play the euphonium. And then I started, and then I got all these cool parts, the marching parts. And then I was hooked.
Huh. I want to hear more about this national day and all this parade, because I don't know anything about it, but that sounds cool.
Yeah, we have like the wind band and the brass band traditions in Norway are quite big, and so I think we have around 70,000 people playing in band in Norway, and that's quite many compared to the size of the country. So it's a big thing, and like the entire national day is like everybody are going in parade, and the bands are playing marches. That's like been tradition since we got to our independence, I think.
And then did you have... See, I'm an old guy, so I remember different things. Did you have mandatory military service? Did you have to do that or not?
No.
The reason I ask is I was in the Air Force Band, the U.S. Air Force Band in the 90s, and actually came to Oslo and did tattoos in Oslo for about a week. And at that time, I think there was mandatory military service. If you came out of high school, you could go into university, or you had to do, I think, 2 years of military service. But a lot of folks went into the band.
Yeah, I don't actually know how
No, it's because I'm
now,
old. That's all right.
but it's been 1 year, and it's been like before it was only boys, and now it's both genders, I think. So you can sort of choose, or you get picked out, and yeah, we have this really good military band for those kids that are really good at marching. You probably saw them. So
For sure.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and I got to know, do you know Sverre Olsrud?
He was my teacher at the
I
academy.
wondered, yeah, because he and I are about the same age, so that's how old I am. Is I'm as old as your teacher. So
Yeah.
Wait,
I got to
actually,
be.
I want to obviously get back to the person that you studied with and who you know. But if you started, you're not that old, and so if you started playing the euphonium when you were 15, what year was that? That was
It was in, yeah, I'm old.
1998, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think so.
Lance, how
Yeah.
old were you in 1998?
I was already out of the Air Force Band, so I had met Sverre. Well, do you know Sverre's children?
Vaguely.
Because they're a little older than you. I knew them when they were in baby carriages. So we got to be sort of friendly for a couple of years there, and then sort of our paths diverged. But I always liked him very much. I thought he was really cool. I don't know what he was like as a teacher. You could tell me he was a tyrant, but blink
No.
twice if you want to change the subject. Okay,
No.
that's two.
Yeah. So no, but I started when I was 15 years old, and then I was yeah, uh, through high school. We have this, like, you can choose music in high school in Norway, and I did that, but that was also sort of not random. I didn't really work, but then I like auditioned for the Norwegian Academy of Music, and I just did that because um, it was also a friend that was doing it, so that was my reason. And then I, of course, didn't pass, and then I really started to work. So I was like I was 19 when I started to really practice.
Wow.
So then I practiced a lot, of course.
I yeah, if for anyone who hasn't heard her, she's just wonderful, like phenomenal player. So yeah, you have. If you haven't practiced a lot, then I'm going to hang up on you. I'm just gonna, that's really wild that you didn't really take things seriously in terms of a career until you were 19. Is that late for compared to most Norwegian professional musicians?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And it was sort of hard when I started at the academy because I sort of had to uh, like get back at the level, like keep hanging on to the others on the fundamentals and the technical stuff. So that was really hard. To the first 2 years, almost, I felt like crap. but yeah, it worked out, and at some point, I'm like, now sitting here having the life I have now, I'm sort of happy for it because I was able to like be young and have fun and go to parties and live life. Also, I think that is, looking back, I'm glad, even if it was hard in my 20s and working really hard to like get to the level I wanted, and always feeling that I was behind. But yeah.
Do you think that attitude of, I mean, we might call that hustle here. You just sort of like, I feel like I have to hustle to make sure that I'm catching up and then keeping up. Do you feel like that has continued to be a strength of yours?
Yeah, I think I like what I do. I like to work. I like to practice and like to play the euphonium. I like to teach, and it's also, I learned that I have more energy than most people. Like this week I had like a easy week at work, and then I work 40 hours, and that is like a common full job in Norway. And for me it's like, oh, this was easy, it feels like vacation, because I never work 40 hours a week.
Well, how would you describe a typical week? Like what's a normal week look like for you, if there is such a thing?
No week is the same, sort of. It's been during COVID, of course, but yeah. And I was going to talk a bit about that, like being versatile, because that is also a skill I think is crucial to like survive as a euphonium player. And I'm mainly a freelancer, but anyways, like I divide my work day or workload into three different things, like the preparation or like the practice. That's like one third of it. And then you have like the computer stuff, writing application, writing arrangement mostly, transcriptions and stuff I do. And the last third is actually being out of the house teaching or playing. So, and it can be like very different things. Like one day I can teach like online, like 3 or 4 hours, very different levels, and then I can go out and have a session with a school band here in the afternoon. I go in and have the academy, have a class for the entire brass section, or teach my euphonium students, go to rehearsal with my quartet, and preparing a solo gig. So it's like very different stuff.
Well, what would you say is there's no secret, I guess, but what are your keys to success and finding work in each of these areas? Like, what's the process that's allowed you to be so productive and so successful?
I think it's like really you need to enjoy what you do. It's like and you also like I say to my student that I really started to develop when I stopped caring about others' opinion.
Whoa.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Because we need to hear things twice, can you say that again? That was a very important point. That's awesome.
I started to develop as a musician when I stopped caring about others' opinion about my playing and what I didn't do.
Do you remember a moment that really like became clear in your mind, or was it gradual?
It sort of mostly gradual, but also like because I discovered that I had a trouble. For example, in my undergrads, I had trouble like with deliver my best under pressure. And I was like, why can't I play my best under pressure? And this is, of course, a really common problem. And then I figure out that if I'm going to play my best under pressure, I need to really sort of own my musical performance. And it needs to feel mine. I can't like play in a way because a teacher has told me to do so. I really have to like feel it. It must be true to me.
And then how do you pass that forward to your students? Like, how do you send that message onward?
I think it's like the things as a teacher and also as a performer, what I think more and more about is like the sort of context of everything we do. Like, what occasion are you going to perform this piece in? And yeah, and of course, if you get to going to do an audition, then when it comes to interpretation and stuff, I say to them that, okay, you can play it this way, but you will not pass the first round because this is an audition. And audition is really a frame. You have to, in the military bands here, you have to like, they want a sound, they want a way of playing, and you have to fit that. Audition is all about fitting in. And if you're going to play a concert, that's totally different thing. But mostly, I think how I pass it on to my students is that I'm really honest. I really like I tell them what I know, but I also tell them what I don't know, sort of. Yeah, I really, and it's I try to build relationships on trust. They can trust me, and they can like I'm there, and I support them and help them on their way. And also I don't know how that is in the U.S., but I see a lot of teacher that on a higher level, like university and college, teaches without playing. And I always play with my students, and I always like challenge myself, and like I'm going to pick up my horn and play the repertoire, and even if it's not perfect, I can make a point, because I also think that to really like find your voice, or what we shall call it, your musical voice, you have to know it in an intellectual way. You have to know the difference. Like I've been to so many teachers that just say you have to do it this way and not this way. But you need to like make the students really understand why. That's how they can develop, I think.
I think you're right. Well, and actually, this has come up a lot recently, where I think there is a school of thought where you have to do this my way. You have to do these things my way. And we were talking most recently. Well, I think Roger Bobo mentioned it. Dave Zirkle talked about it. So we've been talking to a lot of tuba players recently. Mark Gould actually was another. So, or you can teach the student who's in the room with you, which is what I think you mean. Like you're going to individualize the instruction to the student and the student's needs, rather than saying you have to do this and this and this and this, check off those boxes.
Yeah, and I think this is sort of the way we are going in the musical business, and I think the classical music is a bit behind, like the jazz or the popular music, when it comes to this and this way of teaching, because at least in Norway, it's been common that the teacher at the academy and stuff, we are a small country, so it's not like there are full-time position teaching for brass instrument in Norway. It's like smaller positions. And so usually the teachers are from orchestra, like the Oslo Philharmonic or the Bergen Philharmonic and stuff. But now, like the work market that these students are getting into is much more based on freelancing, and then you need to have other skills than just being able to play your excerpts.
What sorts of skills would you say are key?
I think it's like the versatile stuff. Like you have to be able to make your own gigs.
Yes.
And to do that, it's like the competition is so hard, and you have to like find something that is a bit of unique. And it's also I say to my students that when people call me and want me to do stuff, I don't want them to call just because they want a euphonium player. I want them to call because they want me. So I am sort of the package.
I'm not going to make you repeat that because that's going to get annoying. But that's maybe past tense. Maybe it did the first time. That's huge, right? Because also, if they only want a euphonium, then they can hire a different euphonium player who maybe only plays 80% as well as you, which is still really good, and maybe they'll do it for cheaper, and then they're not going to call you at all. But if they're calling you for you, there's one person in the world who can do that job, and that's you. And then you suddenly have leverage, and you're needed, and you can provide more value that way too, because you're not just doing something that both you and Lance could do at a really high level and that the people would be completely happy, because Lance can't impersonate you and you can't impersonate Lance as well as each of you can do your own thing yourselves. Oh, that's such a huge point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that is that is sort of the key. And also I tell my students, and I think myself, that okay, When we practice, we are so focused on looking at our weak sides and getting those better. But actually, your weak sides is not going to win the job or like getting gigs. It's your strength. And I think we should focus more on developing the strengths to be even better, because that is where you can beat the rest of the world, with your strengths and not with your weakness. And it's sort of the level is so high. And yeah, in Norway I think we have a really high level of brass playing in general, in wind playing in general, and we have a lot of good euphonium players, and some that aren't now known internationally but could be, definitely, but prefer to have a like settled life, uh, and like to everybody can do the job. So if you're going to get a job, you have to be something more. But no, I of course talk about freelancing and stuff, but also like a euphonium player, you you sort of, you are not relevant. You have to make yourself relevant, and you sort of have to. So I'm hoping also in the future to develop more music and repertoire that can fit in so many more places than what we have now. Sort of that will generate more gigs in the future.
Make yourself relevant. Boy, I knew that you were going to be an awesome interview, but we sometimes have awesome interviews that aren't like, don't provide like absolute gold sound bites every 2 minutes, and every every 2 minutes, like Lance start going like, yes, like I didn't just talk for like a 12-minute stretch because I've been taking notes and I've just been going like this silently. So this is wonderful. Speaking of wonderful, we wanted to thank Parker Mouthpieces for providing the hosting for the Brass Junkies. Parker Mouthpieces offers fine, customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz Artist Model tuba mouthpiece and the Lance LaDuke Model euphonium mouthpiece. Yes. Find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Wanted to thank everyone who sent Michael nonsense emails about his root cellar from the Mark Gould I got from the Mark Gould episode. So to fill you in, Michael Parker is not only a sponsor, but he's a dear friend. He's my old college roommate. And we will occasionally have people email him with completely nonsensical questions through his business's website. And yeah, there were some really, really good and bizarre ones last time. So yeah, and in fact, I'm guessing that we're going to get some people in Norway who are going to be listening to this. If you might do me a favor and go to parkermouthpieces.com and then click on the contact, and if you could send a brief email to Michael in Norwegian, it would be very, very appreciated. I mean, like, and it could say something like my cow forgot his guitar at the supermarket. What, it doesn't even have to make sense. He's not going to know. So nor will I when he screenshots it. So whatever you do, don't send Michael Norwegian emails. So I wanted to circle back for just a second to you said that the key to playing under pressure is owning your own performance and not selling it to your teacher, not selling it to others, but really selling it to yourself. Can you talk about the process that you went through of being able to get better at that yourself, and maybe how you help students to unlock that as well?
Yeah, I think this is this is really an individual thing, of course, and we have different backgrounds and different way to react and all this. So, but for me, it was like sort of trusting my performance myself. I sort of needed to trust my own opinion about my playing, sort of like don't needing the confirmation from another person telling me this is good, this is not good, sort of, because like the entire, at least my bachelor was like about that, like getting sort of the feedback was what sort of that was all was about the feedback. And I think that is sort of the opposite process. That is not like bringing yourself into the world. That is like just taking the world in, but you need to like put yourself out there also. And I really encourage my students to like start ensembles and project now in their bachelors that can develop to stuff later, because yeah, I said like I work 60 hours now a week because or 70 because I didn't make any ensembles when I was a student that could have used those 6 or 7 years to develop. I developing them now, sort of. And yeah, so I really encourage them to do stuff and like find new repertoire, find like music written for other instruments and transcribe them. And I think but also for me it was when I started to do this. I commissioned a lot of music, and that is, I think we have a really fine state funding when it comes to the arts in Norway in general, and also for commissioning music. So it's possible to live as a full-time freelancer composer in Norway for the best composer, and that is through state funding that performers can apply for and get work written, get music written.
We can't even get health care.
Yeah.
But before I either start screaming or crying, let's talk about something else. Actually, the next thing I wanted to ask you about, you segued perfectly into it, is that you have been a real champion of new works for the Euphonium and of commissioning them. Can you talk about that process a little bit? Like, how do you decide who you want to have commission for you, and how do you go about doing it?
That's also like been developing because it started when I was quite young. I just finished my bachelor, and then I wanted to make project like that with new music that sort of reflected my hometown, or like my, not more like county in Norway. And I grew up in the middle of nowhere. It's only like it's lakes and forest the longest you can see. I bet it's a total middle of nowhere in Norway where it's the longest to any city in any direction.
Wow.
So yeah, and it lives like 1,800 people there, and it's the biggest county in the country almost. So we have a lot of space. So it's really far to the neighbor.
That sounds like heaven.
Yeah, but where I grew up is like the folk music is a really strong tradition there. So then I sort of gave the composer, because that's also one thing I think is important. And because we have this funding in Norway, you're able to cooperate really personal with the composer. And from the latest pieces I have commissioned, we have like had a process with the composer going on and giving feedback and really developing the music together. And so it all started out by wanting to write music that reflects either the people or the traditions, the traditional music, or the nature from my country. And so that there again is a really good example of a personal project. I'm the only one that could do it, because I am the only euphonium player that comes from this place. So and so yeah, so the music is really mine, and and so it's sort of developed, and now we are in my brass quartet have just commissioned a new piece written for children. We're going to on tour before Christmas, that we have included a traditional like Christmas story that is famous in Norway, and we're going to tour in December. And Yeah, I have getting a new big piece written by the solo percussion player in the Oslo Philharmonic for me and the percussionist I cooperate with, Anders Gregnes Hansen. So that's going to be premiered in October, and there are also several other projects. Hopefully, that will be getting the funding for now.
It can happen lots of ways, these collaborations and these projects. Did they start because you knew a musician that you wanted to collaborate with, or did it start because you knew, I want to form a brass quartet, or I want to have a percussion euphonium duo? So what was the origin story, for lack of a better description?
I think both ways actually. With Anders, the percussionist, it was like we just started to do stuff together, and then suddenly we have, I don't know, we have been playing like 30, 40 concerts the last 3 years or something. So.
And how much of that repertoire are pieces that you two have either created or adapted?
That's everything we play together.
All of it. Wow. That's
So
great.
we also include some solo stuff, but yeah. So, and I last fall in September I was able to do 3 gigs here in Norway with a new piece for Euphonium string quartet and percussion. That is a really nice piece by Stig Nordhagen. He is probably, he's one of the most famous Norwegian euphonium composers. He has written a concerto and divertimento and also a sonata for euphonium. So I really recommend to look into Stig's music. It's really hard, but it's so good. He's also written a tuba quartet, actually.
Well, and I want to go over to the brass quartet for a second too, because again, about the time that I knew, or about the time I was in Norway, I was in a brass quartet when I was in the Air Force Band, and that was some of my favorite chamber music that I've ever played. And the brass quartets are not that popular in the United States. Quintets kind of rule the world over here. Is brass quartet more common in Norway? And so that if not, you're shaking your head. So then why quartet, and then what repertoire are you playing?
Why quartet is that this ensemble is with 3 of my best friends. So and that is sort of the approach we have, is that to make a really good ensemble, you don't necessarily need the best musicians together, but you need to have like the band bus working.
Yes.
So
I feel like I'm interviewing myself, except a more interesting version of myself. Yeah, this is all the things that I say all the time. This is wonderful. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm just getting excited.
Okay, so this is yeah. Yeah, but that was like the reason, and there are two trumpet players and one horn player and me. So, and the repertoire is like, I do almost all the arrangements or transcriptions. So I do it. So it's a win-win.
That's pretty great. So so we're euphonium players, and so there is this you poor euphonium players, you don't have any music to play, or and my philosophy is, you euphonium players, since you don't have that much repertoire, you can kind of do whatever you want. And it seems like from the little bit that I know you don't see the euphonium repertoire as limiting in any way. Like, you see it as an opportunity, I think. Is that accurate?
Yeah, but I have to admit that I don't play so much euphonium repertoire that's not written for me.
Me neither.
Because, it's sometimes I have to watch what I'm saying now. I'm thinking about it, but sometimes I find that I'm tired of the music before I really learned it. So it's harder than, yeah, you. It's hard to play technical, but not necessarily like great art.
Yeah.
And that is also why I want to like cooperate with composers and do stuff. And I also feel that if I like play Baroque music like Telemann and Bach, or I do like some, yeah, I did the Rococo variations, and if I do like classical music, that really trains me to be a classical musician, and I I develop other qualities than I do when I play the euphonium repertoire. And when I get back to like the standard repertoire or trying to learn a new concerto, then it's also quite easy to play. Like the things when I was, yeah, also maybe in my masters, and I was thinking like, oh, this concerto is so hard. For example, the LRB, and it gets so high, and now I'm thinking like, okay, I don't bother to learn this because it's so, yeah. And you're only able to like play it once or twice, and yeah, I want to do music that I can take around the world and play, and again, that's also why I'm really into solo repertoire and doing solo stuff, and yeah, transcribing, and I'm doing a solo recording now, so I'm really into it. So yeah.
Well, I feel so. I'll say a mean thing that you may or may not agree with about our repertoire, and then I'll go in another direction. I feel personally like many of the pieces that are written like you feel like this. It's an attempt to justify the instrument by if we can play faster than anybody else, higher than anybody else, longer than anybody else, lower, jump around, like it's this athletic event rather than what you're saying, which is an attempt to make a piece of music that speaks to somebody. I won't throw any composers or pieces under the bus, and I have lots of students who love lots of that repertoire, and I kind of like listening to some of that repertoire. But I'm with you. I don't feel like I get much musical satisfaction out of it, other than a visceral. Oh, it's kind of fun to play fast, but that's like bubble gum. The flavor dissipates very, very quickly, and then you're just stuck with a sore jaw. I don't know where that went. But anyway, before we go on, let me talk to you about the wonderful folks at Duquesne University and the Mary Papert School of Music, who have been a longtime sponsor of the Brass Junkies. If you click on the link in the show notes, it'll take you to a page where you can find out all the ways you can be involved in music, and specifically brass at Duquesne University. Thank you very much for their sponsorship and for making it possible. Jim Featherflanks Nova, greatly appreciated. Featherflanks. I've started calling my dog Featherflanks for some reason. I'm not sure why, and I thought it would fit with Jim. Okay, so I want to hear about the solo project, and then I also want to know what's on your bucket list in terms of collaborations or kinds of music that you'd like to play. But so what project are you working on right now?
Yeah, I'm going to do a solo recording where I'm going to record some solos pieces that has been written for me earlier, and yeah, I think the oldest one is written in 2010, and then I also include some Baroque music because I love it. I love the freedom, and it's like I play a lot of Bach, and it's like people either love it or hate it, but that's sort of, and I don't try to like imitate a cello. I don't try to like be anything else, because I think if you're playing music that's not written for your instrument and you try to sound like that instrument or like that type of phrasing and characteristic things, then you sort of lost the meaning of the transcription, in my opinion. Because the transcriptions is not to like try to imitate what's original, but it's trying to get the music out in different ways, or sort of getting new approaches to the music. So, but
what's the instrumentation for this album?
It's the instrumentation.
Yeah.
It's only solo.
Solo euphonium.
Yeah, and it's going to, because this is sort of my COVID project. So the title will be Alene, which is Norwegian for alone. So it's just like my COVID project, because this spring is I tried to have some gigs going in the fall because it was possible in Norway to do some stuff, and then I figured I found out that was really stressful, because you didn't knew until like the last day of, am I going to play this concert tomorrow or not? It was like, I don't, yeah. You didn't knew, and that was really stressful, and you had to reschedule and have some streaming online and stuff, and that's why I figured out, okay, in the spring I'm just going to do a project that will not be affected by COVID.
Right.
It will be me and the producer in a church, and that's it.
I see. Well, that's fantastic.
So
I just got a gig actually for next month, a solo gig in Florida.
cool.
It's very strange. It was the first gig that got canceled for me last year is rescheduled for next month. So
I got an Easter gig.
that's pretty good.
I got an Easter gig here in D.C. with players from the National Symphony. It's outdoors, no rehearsal, killer, and it's like great pay. It's like I don't even have to go in a building. I was like, yes, because we're getting like pretty close to getting the vaccine. So like, I'm not going to go sit in a church for 3 hours right now when I'm this close to the finish line in terms. But then they were like, I was like, so give me the details. Like, yes, I replied so fast I almost hurt my fingers. So
It's pretty funny.
yeah. Exciting
So,
stuff.
Bente, I'll have to introduce you to. I have a graduate student who is very passionate about Baroque music, and in fact, he started a boutique publishing company, and he's gone and found all these wonderful pieces that he's doing contemporary settings of that are easier for us to play, and he's also putting in. I'm sure you know, but I don't know the appropriate trills and turns and ornaments for that style of music, and he's indicating how to read some of these things. So I'll have to connect the two of you.
Yeah, cool.
It's very cool. So bucket list. What is it? What else do you hope? You're still young. So what are all the things you hope to accomplish, or some of the things you hope to accomplish with the instrument or musically?
Oh, that's a big question.
You can just choose a little part of it if you want.
Yeah, I have big ambition, but I would love to like have some more solo gigs with bands or orchestra to play. I would love to play, and then it's actually standard repertoire, but to play, for example, the Cosma and the Horowitz with an orchestra, a really good orchestra. That would be something I love to do. And I have also this in my backhead, this big recording of a new album that will be included only Norwegian music, but the last commissions I've been doing. So I hope to get that on a big record company in the future. And I would love to have the Euphonium take me to some continents I haven't been to. Like I would love to go to like China, Japan, and Australia, South America. Yeah, and I would love to like travel the world with the Euphonium. I still have a dream that I will be able to do that somehow. And I also want to like make the Euphonium studio at the Norwegian Academy of Music to be truly world class and get students from the rest of the world to come to us.
Why am I not surprised after hearing the first 45 minutes of this interview that she had like a long list ready to go of super specific, super lofty goals? That's wonderful, because there are a lot of people who just kind of be like, yeah, let me think about it, but you're like, okay, here are the 8 bullet points. I just held up 7 fingers. That's quality. here are the 8.
The 8th one's silent.
All 6 of them. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's there you go. Yeah, you're very driven.
Yeah, but it's like as I said, I love what I do, and I'm like, I've been discussing this with other people, and it's like, if I didn't love what I do, what should I do? Why should I get up in the morning? It's like I can't imagine how it is to like go to a job and stay there for 7 hours and go home and do the same thing every day. I couldn't do that. It's like if I like quit playing the euphonium and I started to work in a grocery store or something, I bet that I will sort of work my way up in the system. I think that's just I need development, and it's not like I'm not so interested in the start point, but I'm interested in the process of where we're going. The process is the key for me. It's like not necessarily like the goal, but the process, just to like work towards something. But I also have to say that I believe that you have to have a balance in your life. So I'm like pretty good to do totally different things when I don't work. Then I like to work out, so I go for a run usually, or training, and I do it outside because I think like the fresh air is the key to good mental health really. So to be outside and to like move your thoughts from your head to your body, sort of. And then I often play PlayStation. That's my like guilty pleasure.
Nice.
And watch like really stupid TV shows. For now,
what are you watching right now? What's your favorite stupid television show?
Right now, I'm watching MasterChef Australia.
Oh, I love those kind of shows. My wife's not as big of a fan, so I have to kind of talk her into. I'll watch a couple episodes of The Bachelor if I can watch Hell's Kitchen or MasterChef. That's the trade-off.
Yeah, but it's like it's the same. Every episode is the same, so you can sort of like easily go in and out, and I think that is sort of what makes it work. Like just lying on the couch and watching stupid TV. Yeah.
Well, if you're going to be that driven, if you're going to spend 60 or 70 hours a week on your primary focus, you better have some balance there.
Yeah,
or you're going to burn out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So I want to hear about the Northern Lights duo, but beforehand, I want to hear about the wonderful people at Houchin Horns from Mr. Lance LaDuke.
Oh, you know what? I keep forgetting to tell you, Andrew. Houchin Horns aims to spread the joy of music through providing the highest level of products, services, and resources to the brass playing community. Did I tell you that? I'm meaning to tell you that. I keep forgetting.
I can't count to 8, Lance, so I'm not sure if I'm the guy.
That's a good point. I also forgot I forgot to tell you that they have newly expanded policies that make it easier to purchase and test drive the best equipment during a time when safety and staying home are top priorities. They have a 15-day money-back guarantee with free shipping on all their instruments and accessories with multiple easy financing options on all inventory. Terms and conditions apply. Seems like that was after. Oh, no, that's right. They have repairs and customizations in-house. You can browse vintage and consignment instruments at houchinhorns.com. They have free in-person virtual instrument consultations with our team Not our team. You don't want our team to do it.
No, you don't.
With their team of professional musicians. Definitely don't want our team. We can't even count nor read. And if you enter the promo code Junkies11 at online checkout, you will receive $500 off your purchase of a new instrument from houchinhorns.com. Thank you very much, Mark, for making that possible.
So how did you get mixed up with this Dave Earl character?
We met in Spain back in, when was it? 2018.
I didn't see that coming. It's like,
Really?
yeah, we met in Spain, nowhere near where either of us live or do almost all of our work.
It was the Euphonium festival there in Madrid.
Okay.
So some years ago, so not so many years ago. And at that time, we both were Wilson artists, so we had some contacts because of that. So that's where it started. And then we, Spain is really good food and really good drinks. So yeah, we got to know each other and had a good time. And then we decided to start a duo project. So, and then I went to the US. This was in the summer, and then we just planned. And then I went to the US in January, I think, for the Army Tuba conference. And then I went up to Ithaca, and we had our first performance. And and then we went on a really big tour in Norway and Spain. And so, a year ago, I was supposed to go to Nurtec, and I was like, I had my bags packed, and it was like Tuesday night, I got home from work, and my flight was leaving Wednesday morning, and it was like, am I going? Am I not going? Am I going? And Nurtec was cancelled, but we had like a lot of other gigs so I was like, am I going? Not going? And I decided to like not go, and 2 days later the world closed down.
Right.
So it was like I'm so sort of glad that I stayed here. But so we had 2 big tours cancelled, but now we are hoping to at least get together in October and November in the US to have planning. We are doing 2 big gigs there at the University of Central Arkansas and this Suffolk County Music Education Association Day for tuba and youths. So, and hopefully getting the gigs we were supposed to have like 1.5 years back. And then we are planning do a recording also in next summer. Because we were planning on doing it this summer, but for now Norway is still closed until June, I think. So it's hard to get in here.
Right.
Because we are quite behind on the vaccine program.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's bringing back memories because Lance and I were supposed to be at Nurtec as well. It was a little bit less stressful just because we were getting in cars and driving there. But it was, I mean, it seemed pretty inevitable. I was very on top of the news for the whole like month leading up to it, but until it happens, so I thought for a good week that it was going to get canceled. But yeah, and then boy, didn't it all just happen so fast? Like you said, it was like, Nurtec was the first thing that I had that actually canceled. And then just like everything within 48 hours just went, just completely slammed shut. Crazy. Yeah, people listening to this in the future who are like, we're not old enough to really, who were like in school, they're not going to really, especially people who listen to this like 20 years from now are, that didn't live through it are going to just not really appreciate it. It was crazy, right? I mean, just all of a sudden it was like everyone in the whole world was told like, you can't get on the plane. Like, stay where you are right now for months. It's crazy.
Yeah, really crazy. But Dave and I have much contact, and I think that is the key to like. It's really like motivating to have someone to talk to in another part of the world, and you're doing the same stuff, and have different thoughts and approaches, and it's I think that's a great strength actually for the duo and the project.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you get all of both of those tours back. So and I just think as we wrap this up here, the world needs more musicians like you, and especially the low brass world, just because you're I mean, so the number of quotes that I wrote down in terms of like owning your own performance, in terms of, you said, make yourself relevant, is the problem with waiting to be picked, waiting to be chosen by a pre-existing group, is that there's never been more great euphonium players in the world or great tuba players in the world ever than there is right now. And there has not only has there not been an expansion of the number of spots available to great euphoniums and tubas, but in most places I think it's shrunk a little bit. And so it's just a math issue. It's hard. But as you can hear, the path that you have carved for yourself is your own path. No one, it's not like even 5 people went down this path before and that you're just doing it better than they did. Like, you are making the path and excelling down the path. And that's the key. I just said the word path a lot. That was my path for the end of this interview. But you're
like 8 times.
It's like 8 times I said path. You're drawing your own map, and that's what the world is. The world is kind of, some people in the world are coming to the slow realization that is the way to sustainable careers, and you are a shining example of that. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
And we are going to have Bente stick around for a bonus episode here, which we're going to keep talking to her. That is, of course, available to all of our Patreon patrons. And I think that's it. Lance, is there anything I'm forgetting?
I'll just tease that in the bonus episode I will share I don't remember if I've shared this story, but I nearly created an international incident at a small grocery store in Norway.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this. This is all right. I'm now going to wrap this so that I can hit stop and then record again so I can hear this story. So, all right. Thank you so much for joining us today. And that is going to do it for another episode of The Brass Junkies. You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to hear the bonus episode featuring today's guest, please visit patreon.com/thebrassjunkies to learn how you can support the show and instantly access all bonus materials, as well as gain access to a special patron-only Facebook group. The Brass Junkies is produced by the amazing, wonderful, and truly inspirational Will Houchin. The theme music was composed by Fernando Dados and performed by Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. We are at Pray for Jens on Twitter and Instagram, and have a Facebook page at facebook.com/prayforjens. You can find out more about the Brass Junkies and all the other Pedal Note Media podcasts at pedalnotemedia.com. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.